Good afternoon, world. It is moments past noon here in Waxahachie, Texas, deep in the heart of the Lone Star State. And today is the 24th of July of 2025, and this is episode number 79 of Grit and Good News. We are broadcasting live, as we always do, from our palatial second story studio in downtown Waxahachie in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. And I am your co host, Jeff Lynch. Capable of manning the board is our man, Sam Brooks, 21 years and a day. 21 and a day. He's in his 22nd year, we might say.
Right.
And that just leaves one person left, and that's our man, Scott Brooks.
Thank you, brother. 21 years old. What's it feel like, Sam?
Feels good.
Doesn't
Feels really good.
feel any different than you felt yesterday?
No.
Feel any
Well,
different than
yesterday
you
was my
felt?
birthday.
Okay, day before
No.
yesterday. Okay.
But you know, Sam, tell me if you agree with this. There's a lot of anticipation coming to 21, right?
Yeah.
In all of your decade years, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And coming up to 70 happened here on the 12th. When I got there, I was relieved that I was alive and that I got there. And I just kind of felt good about my station in life, which is how you feel too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are where you are, and
Mhm.
you're pleased with that. You got a lot of gifts. What'd you get?
I forgot to put it back on.
Oh yeah,
But I got a Cooper jersey, Cooper flag jersey. I love it.
Cooper flag, yeah, and a bunch of
It's
Formula One
Is,
stuff.
is,
in
it, is
there.
it white or
It's
It's
dark
their
blue,
dark blue.
navy.
dark blue?
Yeah, it
Okay.
looks really nice.
It's in there. I need to go put it
Yeah,
on.
it
Though.
looks nice. All right, well, good.
Thank
Happy
you.
adulthood,
Thank you.
as
Thank
they
you.
say. Thank you for being here, Scott and Jeff, with you along with Sammy. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1 Texas time, and we talk about a number of things, whatever's going on in the world today. We tend to talk about today. We're going to hone in on some stuff that is about our community's city council, but we're also when we talk about these things, they really apply across the board to any city in the country that obviously most cities do, if not all, depend on their city council and their school board for things that do impact their daily lives specifically, far more than things that on a national level or state level. So what we talk about today, I think, putting aside the very specifics that are related to individual council members, things can be applied across the board.
Right.
So we look forward to sharing that. We're going to start with some updates in the
And
world. Go
excuse
ahead.
me, but our man Sam has taken over
Oh
my
yeah.
job of digging out the jersey numbers for, in this case, 79. He's going to give a couple, and then I'm going to give a hockey
Yeah, so
one.
we like to take the number of that episode of our show and say, okay, well, what number athletes, what athletes that we know of or that are well known wore number, in this case, number 79. And there were only three that we found, and I'm talking about well known. There are a lot more,
Right.
but well known.
Yep. So the first one I got is Rosie Brown, lineman for the Giants,
Yeah, back in the 70s.
and then the Cowboy Harvey Martin.
And you don't remember him because
No.
I don't know, he played before you were born. I don't even know if he's still alive. He
Lineman.
was a defensive lineman. He was good.
He played on some good lines
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
he was
he
good.
was
That
good.
was the good
He
years
was good.
of the Cowboys. And then the last one is a hockey player, Jeff. Who's that?
Andrei Markov, um, with that Russian name, he had a great nickname, the General.
Yeah,
And he played for Montreal from 20 to 17. And I got thinking to myself, geez, I wonder how he is on the list of all-time games played without winning a Stanley Cup.
hmm
And I went to that list, and he wasn't on the top 10, and I didn't keep digging anymore. And
really.
and I realized that, you know, 17. There's guys that played more than 17 years
They
that
never
that,
won
that
one.
never got
Yeah,
a cup. He was one of the best D Montreal ever had, but he was kind of undervalued. And so, although he never won the Stanley Cup, he did something that is becoming more popular now with the Russian players. Is after retirement, or it happened with Yamir Yager
yeah.
going to
When it goes
Czechoslovakia.
over, yeah,
So they go to the KHL, which is
right.
the professional league, and he won a Gagarin Cup, Gagarin Cup.
Is that their equivalent of the Stanley Cup?
That's
Yeah,
their Stanley Cup.
yeah.
And did you find that picture? Uh, Sam's going to pull you up a picture of the Montreal Canadian sweater, their uniform. is one of my all-time favorites in all sports, and I want you to try to tell me what does the CH on that jersey stand for?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you a clue. It was from a French, they're a very French town.
right.
It's a French expression slogan. It was the French named it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I won't have a clue. Only thing I know in French is Pepe Le Pew.
you got it up there. Okay,
All right,
isn't that
cool.
a gorgeous jersey?
That's a great franchise.
It,
It's
it
it's
it is
in
it's
hockey. It's like Yankees, Cowboys,
it
and
is.
football.
It's Club de Hockey Canadien. That's the CH
Cool.
Club
Yeah,
de
I've seen
Hockey.
the CH all
Yeah,
these years, and they're called the Habs
yeah,
too.
the Habs.
Yeah.
For habitantes.
Well, there you go.
There
More
you
than
go.
you ever thought you'd know about professional hockey, particularly on the Montreal side. Some sad developments today. We all know that by now that Ozzy Osbourne passed away earlier this week, and 76 years old. He had Parkinson's disease. Uh, we wish his family well. And then this morning, just a little while ago, within the past hours, announced that Hulk Hogan passed away due to a heart attack. I assume it's of the massive kind. He was
Hmm.
71 years old. And if you, I mean, you know who Hulk Hogan is. His real name was Terry Bollea, and goes back to the, gosh, 90s, certainly, late 90s, maybe, that he became so, maybe it was before that, 71, so it could be, 30 or 40 years,
Yeah,
50
yeah,
years.
I'd
So
say so.
before then, became popular and was in the a Rocky movie. He's last year, just as recent as last year, he was at the Republican National Convention and
Yeah,
espousing and supporting Trump's presidency. So
yeah.
it's just sad for a guy like me, anyway. I mean, Sammy, as he was growing up, loved wrestling,
Yeah,
and I
I did
loved.
too, more in my youth.
Well, I love in my youth, I loved wrestling too, but it was of the Von Erich era
Yeah.
when it was every Saturday night, and it was, if there was somebody that showed a little bit of blood, that was a big thing for that week.
When I moved to Texas in '83, I discovered something, which was that the pro wrestling circuits are somewhat regional, because I mean, it was
Yeah,
all about the Von Erichs. And I'm going, I've never heard of the
Texas
Von Erich,
family. Yeah.
but what I was getting at with that is I did notice that Hogan had more of a nationwide rather than
Definitely.
a
Well,
regional
I would
appeal.
argue it had worldwide
Yeah.
appeal. He was entering into an agreement with Eric Bischoff, who was also is a well-known, not wrestler, but one of those managers, as they call them. They were about to launch and I assume Bischoff still will, but not a reality, but a freestyle wrestling league that was more oriented around rules and such and less performance, but a
Hmm.
little of it,
Okay.
so that's where they were headed. But sad news on the sports front today and in the entertainment world. So we want to bring that to your attention. I'm wearing my Texas Rangers hat. Of course, I got on my Buffalo Bills hoodie today, but Texas Rangers, just like they did in 2023 when they just aggravated the devil out of most fans for the first half of the year, like, what are we doing? um, and just hovering around mediocre at best. They've done the same thing again this year, and like in 2023, they've come out of the gate after the All-Star break, are 8-2 uh, since the All-Star break, which is
Which is
tied
how
with
they did in
Cleveland.
the World Series
They
year, right?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tied with Cleveland for the best record since the All-Star break. So we'll see what happens, but they definitely have momentum going for them. And I'm not, I don't want to say repeat, although I just did. Uh, but it's very similar to 2023, what we're
Because
experiencing
the
now.
hitting's coming around some, and,
Yeah,
and it's always about pitching, and pitching's been good all year. I remember when the Rangers, when all kind of teams started doing all kind of third, fourth, fifth uniforms, and when they came out
yeah,
with the baby blue,
yeah,
which is what you're wearing
yeah,
here today, and which was famous for the Royals,
yes.
and I never really liked it, but I love it on that hat. And
Yeah, I don't know where
show
I,
people the bill of that under your
oh, it's
bill.
got I don't know what that is, but like
I
a
don't know.
tie dye. Can
Isn't
you
that
see
cute?
that?
It's nice.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I've got, I don't know how many, probably 10 or 15 Rangers hats, and all of them none of them are the hats they wear on the field.
Right.
So they're these commemorative hats or these hats that are associated with some event or what have you. Well, speaking of those uniforms, I don't care for that black, dark blue or black pants with the cream colored shirt. I don't go for that. I love the baby blues. But let's say there's some hope for the Rangers as we proceed into the fall. Looking good.
That's why I would play 162 of them.
Yeah, that's right. So that said, I want to talk about Waxahachie and Waxahachie City Council. So I've been here 11 years in this city. I'm not from Waxahachie. I'm from Dallas, but Flower Mound to be specific. I've moved and lived in various parts of this country throughout my career. Being in the media business is not unlike the military insofar as back in the day there were military media outlets everywhere, namely newspapers. And there was a time in the 80s and 90s when it was a monopolistic kind of feel. There were only a few cities in America that had two newspapers. I happened to work in uh, three of them.
And when you
Um,
had two newspapers, what'd you get? Morning and
you
afternoon.
did.
I
Matter
I,
of
I
fact,
grew up on that all
yeah,
my
matter of
life.
fact, my first newspaper I ever worked for was the Montgomery Advertiser, which was the morning paper, and the Alabama Journal, which was the afternoon paper. So you had two editorial staffs in one building that produced two different newspapers in the same day. It was pretty remarkable. When I was at the Buffalo News, we had somewhere between, depending on the year, 7 to 9 versions of the Buffalo News that went out throughout the day. So we delivered the early morning paper, then we would come back with more as the day went on. So but that was in the heyday of
And you
the
know, I am
business.
such a fan of newspapers and always have been since my youth. Which do you think we got, the morning or the afternoon?
You being you, I
No,
mean, we
no, no.
being.
My family growing up,
Oh yes, I mean, I could picture you being the morning.
both.
Did you? Yeah. I mean, I can picture that too. In those markets where we like the Alabama Journal and Montgomery Advertiser, obviously I got both. But then we phased the afternoon papers out over time. But the for us here at the Sun, we're 8 years old come August 1st. Actually 7 years old. We started in 2018. We started because we felt like Waxahachie needed as authentic a media company as could be, and that is one that just didn't have its facts and figures and news reports, but that also added the feel and flair of op-ed pages or page. And that op-ed page is for columnists and for letters to the editor and for guest columns and whatever, but it's all based on opinion. And come hell or high water, I'm going to continue to tell people that you got to understand the difference. And I see posts and comments all the time to my stuff that say, uh, a paper's not supposed to be biased, or this is too biased to be a news report or a story or whatever. And we don't really respond to comments on Facebook or social media, but in those cases where someone can't either figure out the difference between opinion page content and news page content, we try to say there is a difference here. Everything, 100% of what I write all these years is opinion. I'm not a journalist. So for those of you that want to love calling me a lousy journalist, you would be right, because I'm not one. I've never written a story for the news pages of any newspaper for which I've worked or led. And in this case, the same thing. I write an opinion page, a column on page 5, which is the op-ed page, which is purely 100% opinion. Everything you see on that page is opinion and
There's a lot of
bias.
facts in it, but it's
Well,
not a news story.
it's not a news story, and its opinions are based on facts.
Right.
What you think are the facts. Now, people can say they have a different opinion than mine, but somebody not long ago said, "Well, your opinion's wrong." Well, an opinion by nature can't be
Right.
wrong.
Hello.
It is an opinion. So when somebody says, "Oh, this story is biased," well, it's on the opinion page. And I had to say to somebody the other day, opinion and bias are synonymous. They're the same thing. So if you have a bias towards something, you're manifesting or sharing your opinion that you have that bias. It's all connected. You can't have an opinion about something and then say, "But I'm not biased,"
Right.
right? They're the same thing. So it brings us to this story about city council. And one of the council members has said that I don't know if he's referring to us or others, but that uh, we're searching for a story, or people searching for a story that isn't there.
Can I cut in on you one?
Sure.
Because I know we're going to spend a lot of time, and I don't want to skip this one you got about developments on RussiaGate,
Yeah.
but I want to talk about opinion versus news,
Yeah.
and how you can read an article in a paper that's full of opinion when it's supposed to be news.
Yeah.
But the other thing is the selection of what gets on in the paper or on TV. Yesterday, I was in the car over an hour coming and going on a couple doctor's appointments. So I caught a whole lot of Fox News and I caught a whole lot of the story on this whole Obama and RussiaGate. I mean,
Yeah.
it was all over it. So when it comes and we like to watch the nightly news to get a little perspective different from what we get in the newspaper
Mhm.
or listen to Fox and um got so tired of 8 with Moyer and so we switched to 4
Yeah.
and same thing. We kind of settled into 5
Yeah.
with Leslie Holt and he's
Yeah.
on vacation right now and we got another guy doing it for him. But they open with a story about the Epstein files and like it's the biggest thing going. And 2 or 3 times in it, they make reference to the fact that now just being mentioned in this file doesn't really incriminate anybody. I mean, so they're sliding that in,
Hmm.
but that's their big story. We watch the whole news, and there's
Nothing about
nothing
RussiaGate.
about RussiaGate
Yeah.
in the whole news.
Yeah. So
So
a paper will tell you how good it is, not only by what they print, but by what they don't print. So
exactly.
if we had I'm conservative. There's no question about that, and people know that. I've never hid that at any market I've ever been in, certainly not in Waxahachie, and I'll never hide that. I don't write anything. I don't even control what runs on the anything but the op-ed page. When I see proofs of the paper that are going to be printed an hour after I see them, uh, there may be 1 or 2 times in 7 years that I've sent something back to the newsroom saying, "Hey, that you might want to correct this, you might want to correct that," and it's usually grammatical or headline related
Mhm.
or typo or what have you. It's never the substance of the story. So we have an editor just like we had when we opened until a year ago that was a known Democrat in this community, and she was hired in part because of that. That meant we had some degree of balance, but I so our managing editor, Audrey Medina, she controls the news pages of the paper, uh, and I don't have anything to do with any story. That said, I do believe a newspaper. Some newspapers have stopped doing it, but as long as I'm at the helm of the Sun or in charge of anything related to a media outlet, there will be an opinion aspect to it.
Mhm.
Some shows, like what you find on Fox, uh, in the evening, prime time on all the networks, really cable networks, those are opinion shows. They're not news shows. So if you're going to when I watch, my favorite is Jesse Waters. I know what I'm watching.
Right.
If I was watching that thinking it's a news story, then I'm going to be confused, upset, angry, or what have you, because I'm not getting the news. I'm getting his spin on the news, which is what an op-ed page is. Same thing if you're watching Rachel Maddow, who's, in my view, one of the worst ever. Uh, and you expect that you're going to get the news straight up. You're going to get the news filtered through her mindset, her perspective, her filters when it comes to me or in your poems or in anybody that puts a column or letter to the editor on the op-ed page, they are sharing their filter, their view, their perspective on what they believe the facts to be. So that's the premise. And we will continue doing it. We are politicians since the beginning of newspapers almost 2 centuries ago. Or the Daily Light's 150 something years old, and there are papers older than that. Politicians have sought the endorsement of newspaper editorials. That's because they value, even today, they value the influence of a newspaper. We had a situation not long ago where uh, uh, about the story was a news story. It involved a quip or an anecdote about a family member passing away, uh, a family member of the subject of the story, and it was the wrong person. So we had written, it was a simple error. I mean, serious error, but no error is not serious really, but we so we were notified in a split second. We were notified by more than one person that that was not a family member. And so Audria, like we always will do, corrected it right away. And if the people that were involved wanted a retraction, we'd have been happy to do that, and we might have. I can't remember, but I said to those people, just remember this whenever somebody tells you the newspapers don't work, because it was minutes when that story
Right.
was released that those family members or those people involved in the story reached out and said that's the wrong family member that passed away. So uh, so we know there's still influence, and if there's no story here with respect to what's going on with Michael Scott, then why all the posts and why all the quick responses by the council person who believes there is no story here? Why? What's to explain if there is no story? If you think you got to defend something, then there is a story just by the mere nature of that response. So uh, there's a lot to be said for how a media is to cover its local school boards, councils, politicians, judges, and all sorts of things. And we're going to continue it to do it aggressively and with a watchdog mentality. I will say one of the council members, who I'm going to talk about in just a second, Travis Smith, was the editor for the Daily Light. I hired him in 2016, and he knows what a hard hitting editor is supposed to do. He wrote many stories at the Daily Light that called people out, and news stories even, and in some cases he endorsed people when I left. So he knows full well what goes on in the inner workings of a newspaper, and so I shouldn't have to explain any of that to him. He knows. But let me just say, this council, the whole ordeal here is about a city council that uh, theoretically, and certainly it happens in reality, but in theory, given our system here in Waxahachie and in a lot of cities, one, we're an independent city. So our charter calls us an independent city. That means our independent home ruled city. So that means when you go to the ballot box and you vote for somebody for city council or school board, you will not see an R, a D, or an I beside their name, or a Green Party or whatever other party they might be associated with. You don't see any of that. So when you go to the ballot box, you just see the person's name and what place they're running for. That is a representation of being an independent city. In those cases, those races, we don't get into politics. Now, the candidates that run for these offices will put Republican real big on their sign, but we are a city that doesn't. We're an independent city, and so we don't get into that. Matter of fact, in a council, one of the better councils I think Waxahachie's ever had, based on what I know, it was a council 5 or 6 years ago that consisted of two Democrats, well-known Democrats, both
Mhm.
of whom I supported, both of whom I endorsed, both of whom I considered friends and still do. Although one of them's mad at me because she's doesn't like me ranting and raving, as she puts it. But I still care for them and voted for them time and time again. So we have a system here where council is voted on every 2 years. There are 5 members. All of them are volunteer. None of them are paid. Our setup has been strong hired city leadership management and a supportive type role for council. There are some cities in America where council is the opposite, where the strength is in the council, and usually those are either uh, compensated councils or certainly a compensated duly elected mayor, where the management of the city takes place, and then a softer, not I don't mean this derogatorily, but a softer, weaker setup for manager and all the staff. So in our case, we are our city is managed by city manager and his management team, and there are 400 and some, roughly 400 employees at the city, and that all falls under the purview of, in this case, Michael Scott. So councils the councils have the potential to change every year, and which I get why there's 2-year terms, because if you get a bad council member or members, then 2 years is relatively short period of time in which you can get them out. However, it breaks up continuity. So our system further is set up such that on those elections, of the 5, it's staggered. So this year we had 2 members of council that were up for reelection. That was Travis Smith and Billy Wallace. Next spring, we will have the other 3 members of council up for reelection, which will be Travis Smith, Billy Wallace, Trace Atkins. And then the following year would be the Travis and Billy's position, and it continues that. So we have staggered elections. After the council is voted on and elected in May, unless there's a runoff, in June, the council meets and validates the election. That's not the word they use, but it's the same thing. Validates canvasses the election and validates it. And that same council then selects of the five choose the mayor. All right. So in this case, uh, of the five voted on, and 3-2 has to be at least 3-2. That the mayor would be Billy Wallace. Billy Wallace, just like any mayor that Waxahachie's ever had, is not voted on. She's not selected by the citizenry. She is appointed by fellow councilmen. All right. So that's the way we're set up. And
That's the fox watching the hen house.
yeah, so you have there is no other than, I mean, in the mayor, whether it was Billy Wallace, David Hill, Kevin Strink, Chuck Beatty, Buck Jordan, just I can name many more, or not many more, but some more. Uh, though they have no more power, no more duty, no more responsibility than the rest of the other four council members. They're all the same. We just choose one and put the label of mayor on him or her. And then there's a mayor pro tem. So right now we got Billy Wallace, who's been on council for, I believe she just won her second election. So just say, I know this isn't exactly right, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 years, going on 4 years
Yeah.
or 4 years. And then we have a mayor pro tem, which is Chris Wright. I mean, I'm sorry, it was Chris Wright, and then it transitioned to Patrick Suter. So, and Patrick's been on council about that same amount of time. So that's how we're set up. And so Waxahachie, we're a 50,000, I argue 50,000 plus community, fast growing. I said that in a column the other day. I looked at a bunch of research that said, okay, where is Waxahachie and Ellis County in terms of the fastest growing places in America? And in the aggregate, uh, we are around the 20th fastest growing community in all of the country. And so the question is, do we have a system that supports that status? Do we have a system that says this is the best way to manage a city, the 20th fastest growing city in America, which is the most dynamic country on the planet? And Texas is one of the fastest growing states in the country, and Ellis County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. So then we say, okay, well, begs the question: are we set up right? It's like if I said to you, um, the stars, given their abilities, and you can name whatever they are, fast, uh, active on the offense, strong, whatever their tenets are as a team. If if you, as the owner, which I say we are the owner of our city, the
Mhm.
voters, but if you were the owner of the stars, and you knew the elements or the characteristics or attributes of your team, you wouldn't go out and hire a coach that or set up a system that's antithetical to taking advantage
Right,
of that.
right. You gotta have players matching coaching
Yeah, you got to
systems.
play to your
Right.
strengths. So I don't think we're set up in such a way that plays really to Waxahachie's strengths and is suited well to manage the city. So then you say, okay, well, how does that match? We've got a relatively new council, in the sense that it changed when Trace Atkins came on board 5 years ago. We had a city council of veteran city council members, people who had been here quite some time, people economically sound, development sound, were involved in a lot of other things in the community and throughout the county and the state. Uh, we had, for the longest period of time when I got here, it was a smooth running city. In 2016, that council decided on what I know to be valid reasons to terminate the city manager at that time, Paul Stevens, a likable guy, super guy, great head of hair, by the way. But I'll never forget, some key folks came over to see me before it was going to be announced when it was at the daylight and said, "Hey, this is about to happen." And my commitment to them was what my commitment now. We will cover it the best we know how and the way we should. Um, and it didn't go over well with the public here. It did not go over well. Paul Stevens was very well liked. It was the council chambers, that meeting room was packed, standing room only. People brought popcorn
Right.
boxes like there was going to be a movie or a show. And we had David Hill, who was a council person at the time, was out of the country. So it was based on a 4-member vote. and it was, I believe, best I recall, was unanimous.
So what's your
Yeah.
gauge on this year? What has happened here in the last couple of weeks? Um, on overall public reaction,
Yeah.
supportive or unsupportive?
Well, if the question is supportive of Michael Scott being forced out, is that what you're asking?
Well, there might be two parts.
Okay.
Are they happy that he's out, and how do they feel about how it was handled?
Yeah,
Let's take one of
those are
the
the two key questions. As everybody knows by now, I was a fan of Michael Scott. I've never done anything, never done anything outside of business with Michael Scott. Never. I've seen him at a
right,
church when I first moved here that I no longer go to, but that he still does. I've watched him be an assistant manager, city manager, and then take over as the council that fired Paul Stevens hired Michael Scott. They
right,
hired Michael Scott for valid reasons. Then Michael Scott worked with a few different city councils over the
right,
years, none of which until this council comes along did Michael Scott have any major problem with. Reporting to a city council, I wouldn't wish that on anybody because
right,
it changes all the time.
right.
And the nuances and dynamics of those personalities, it'd be like being a coach, and every year your ownership
Right.
changes. That's not healthy. And so there are some in the community who, because Waxahachie has grown so fast, and because there are traffic jams, and because of their sidewalk in front of their street or their house is busted, pin that all on the city manager. So you have those people who had an issue with something very specific,
Sure. Okay.
or that they don't like growth. They still want Waxahachie to be a one horse town, who blame it all on the city manager. And then and then you have those who know Michael Scott, have worked with him. He's done things that maybe he responded well to something. Uh, maybe one of the council members, present and past, responded well to somebody's concern. And I mean, you had a concern a year or two ago whenever you had a thing on your street, and
And
it
and
was
and and
repaired in
and
a
the
relatively
and the
quick
mayor
time.
got that taken care of for me promptly.
So when that happens to people, they will say, "Oh, we got a good city manager, or we
Yeah.
got a great mayor," whoever they give that credit
Right.
to. So I think it's that anecdotal evaluation that goes on. No one.
So in total,
I
what
think it's fair to say it splits down the middle.
splits down the
I
middle?
don't. I
Okay.
mean, that's all again anecdotal, but the very few people go to council. Fewer watch it. Uh, only I'm going to round it up to 1,500, but we've got and I'm going to round off the registered voters for the city of Waxahachie at somewhere around 30,000 people. Well, 1,500,
Yeah.
sometimes less, vote for people who sit on city council. So you got a small fraction of people. 10% of 30,000 is 3,000. So we've got 5% of the people, say between 5 and 10% of the city people, voters, registered voters,
Right.
are choosing who sits on our city council. Now, if you got a big family, or you've been here forever, or any other number of reasons that have nothing to do with your ability to be a good council person,
Right.
you could the biggest schmuck on the street could become a council member, given the way voting takes place in America today. We just don't have educated voters.
So back to your question about set up right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've had discussions before about the two basic ways of cities with the strong mayor versus the strong city manager.
Hmm.
And then the council's always there.
Yeah.
And the council, I think, becomes more important on the strong city manager
Yeah.
side. But I'm thinking to myself, I remember when you had David Hill over here, and and I've had some nice discussions with him in your office, and I do know this. He's made it clear to me that that mayor's job. It first of all, it is volunteer,
Yeah.
unpaid, and it in his life, it was a full-time job
Yeah.
every day.
Right.
Billy Wallace, I'm assuming she's treating it that same way.
She does.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The council members, I'm hearing that the work that they put in, it may not be full-time job-ish, but it's a big
It is a
commitment.
big
And
job.
so I asked myself, why would you want these jobs? And I come up with three reasons. One is for fame. I don't know if I would really call it.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of notoriety to that
Hmm.
office, for the love of service
Yeah.
or for power.
Yep.
And the fourth one is a stepping stone to other things. And I've been here for 4 years, and I've never seen anybody from the council move up and become a state senator
Well,
or any.
a few years back, John Ray was on city council and also, I believe, was mayor for a term or for 1 year. I wasn't here when that was the case, but then he ran for state representative and won.
Yeah,
Uh, and there's at least one I know on council, more, I should say, that have aspirations in the political realm to do more. Uh, not not to just stay on council, but to run for elected office, and that
yeah,
is more of a paid job, more either state, United States,
right,
whatever. So, but yeah, I think those are the valid reasons why people run. Unfortunately, as I've seen it with this council, in my opinion, uh, Jason says love of your community. I mean, look,
right,
I can, and Chuck says, didn't all this start due to the new city hall? The city hall was the tipping point, but have been rumblings about certain council members having issues with Michael for over a year. Did I think those are valid? No, but that's my opinion. Again, I'm not here to tell you that everything I say is absolute. I'm telling you what my opinion is, and I've said in this chair and said I think Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in America. And when I do, people think I'm an idiot. I will, yeah, in this room. Uh, and there are other things that I take positions on that people love. Ted Cruz. I think Ted Cruz has turned into an established uh, blue blood in Washington D.C. and it isn't doing us any favors in the state of Texas. So when it comes to this council, there are some things I feel like I need to say in the remaining time that we have here. And that's specific to what's been happening this week, but it's more than just this week. Um, the city councils and school boards are ultra important. What they decide impacts us immediately. Remember, a couple of years ago, College Street, our infrastructure in Waxahachie, to say it kindly as possible, is lousy at best. Part of Michael's job and whoever the new city manager will be, part of what Paul Stevens' job was, and part of the reason why I don't think he's here anymore, or why I think part of the reasons why he isn't here anymore was because of managing the infrastructure issues, because you can't just ignore a major pipe that's going belly up. College Street was to be a little local on the street job, and it turned into a 1 or a year and a half or however long it was whole over, what do they call it, makeover. And so our infrastructure is a problem. It's going to cost a lot of money to make sure it gets up to speed in quick time. There are other things that a city manager has to rely on staff to get done. So the person at the top is either going to get the credit or they are going to get the credit. They're going to get the blame.
right,
So, but the nature of council changing every 2 years is a bad, in my view, it's a bad system. It's hard to get continuity. What one council wants to do, another council won't want to do. So you look at the city hall issue. Monday night, this council voted to cease, to halt all the work that's been done on the construction of uh, what was the old city hall, that is being renovated to be used, and it was 4 point something million over budget. That was one of the reasons why, at least they're saying, that they forced Michael out. I say, as I've said on Tuesday, that any project in America that was quoted uh, in the past at a price is going to be over budget just by the nature of what's going on with supply chains and tariffs and
right,
things like that. So, I think you got to be careful about the precedent you set when you say, well, we're over budget, so we're going to use that to terminate somebody. Yeah, my feeling is that the bigger issue here, the real issue, was that council didn't know that we were $4.7 million over budget. So council says, we didn't know any of that. So how come we didn't know? And the guy that didn't tell us is Michael Scott. So we got to do something with Michael Scott. As a voter, what I say is, well, why didn't you know as city council? What are you doing? I mean, if you see that place, you see it. If not all of them, most of them drive by that place often. So you knew the status was that it was being renovated. So as a voter, to take the Waxahachie Sun part of it off, as a voter, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. It's not just Michael Scott's responsibility to communicate, to ask questions, find out what's going on. That's your job. And if you're screwing around, wasting time, not paying attention, and then all of a sudden, because you're drunk on one of these things that Jeff mentions as the reason why uh, people run for council, which is power and control, then I could see where you'd be irritated with Michael Scott. But let's not, this council cannot abdicate its responsibilities for staying informed in its own way of everything every single dang day and then blame it on a manager when you suddenly find out that something that you should have known all along. So don't give that crap to me as a voter. I'm not buying it. And a council member that does that, whether it's here in Buffalo where I live, Pittsburgh where I live, any place I live, if a council member is blaming things they should know about and manage, help manage and support on somebody else, if they didn't know about it, that's as much the council person's problem as is in this case, the city manager. So because again, Michael Scott didn't have these issues with any other council until now. So, so let me just do this. I want to say to each council member, I want to say to you watching, and I want to say to the council person watching, I'm going to go one by one, and I'm going to say what it is I feel. Because right now, when you go to all this stuff on social media, you see all kinds of people running their mouths, in some ways positive, some ways negative. And nothing that's going to be said about me is going to impact what I do. Because if that were the case, then I'd have quit doing what I do a long time ago. Even when there wasn't social media. Now it's just far more prevalent to hear positive and good. But if somebody getting online and saying the Waxahachie Sun is a joke, well, if it's a joke, then why are you reading it? If you think my column's a joke, why are you reading it? And so none of that stuff's going to work. And what I do better in my daily walk of life, not having all these aggravations, of course. But when Jason Randall says people should do it for the love of their community, I say if you care about your community, then you're going to make sure and you own a media company, you're going to make sure that it's a watchdog.
And
Because
Jason, that's what I meant by I said
yeah,
service.
so a watchdog media is one that says, wait a minute, we're not just going to turn our other eyes. We got a open records request in both to the city on this stuff. We got one in for what I believe are some unethical, misguided things that happened in a case that I'm working on in the DA's office, past DA Ann Montgomery's office. We uh, we uh, we've done several things in the past that have exposed people for what they are, and that's not going to change. So here's what I want to say. I Patrick Suter and Chris Wright. Patrick Suter proved to me a long time ago when he first ran. When I told him when he came over to meet me for the first time, and we wanted to get to know one another, it was my responsibility to tell him at that time that I was had already made the commitment to endorse his opponent. And I looked him square in the face and said, look, chances are I'm going to really like you, Patrick, and I think you will do a great job on council. But I have a responsibility to fulfill my word. I'm loyal. I like Doug Barnes, who sadly has passed away since. And I said, Patrick, I've endorsed Mr. Barnes, your opponent, and I'm not going to change that. And Patrick, with as much class and respect and understanding as one could exhibit, he he went away, and we have remained in touch. He's the one council member
I love it.
that stays in touch with us on purpose.
Good.
Chris Wright. Chris Wright is the quintessential love your community council member. The guy is everywhere all the time. Even when these council members are liaisons to certain other commissions and boards out there. And so they go to them like a council member is responsible for being at P&Z and they're supposed to go. Some of them don't that are responsible that are liaisons. Chris Wright goes to everything and things that he's not even required to be at. The man is a community, in my opinion, a guy like Chris Wright and Chris Wright, obviously, are quintessential servants, community servants.
And he's a great Rotarian.
Yeah.
And do you think all those flags that come out 5 or 6 times a year to people who pay $50 a year for that's the biggest bargain in patriotism in the world? You think they just get put into people's front yard and taken out by nothing?
Yeah.
Well,
Chris Wright,
he does my neighborhood.
he's tireless, the dude. He cares. I've sat with him many a time. We just did a story yesterday, lead story in the paper, a news story about him and how he views things. We trust him. we trust Patrick Suter, and I think they're good for this community. Get to Billy Wallace. Billy Wallace and her husband Doug Wallace, who's a district judge here. We go way back. One of my best friends in life was Scott Dorset, and those of you that have been here a long time know that Scott Dorset was the best photographer, bar none, in this world, and tragically was hit by a truck in 2016, and 4 years later passed away. Uh, his family still remains very important, very close to me and my family. Uh, Billy Wallace and Doug Wallace did wonderful things for Scott Dorset and his family. I will never, ever forget what they've done. And I'm grateful for them for having done that. Billy ran against, as I recall, when she first got into politics, she ran against Mary Lou Shipley and another guy, Paul Christensen, who was a schmuck when it comes to politics. I endorsed Mary Lou because I liked Mary Lou and thought she'd done a great job as a council person. But there was a three-way race, and Mary Lou lost. But Billy and Paul Christensen headed to a runoff. We endorsed uh, Billy, and I would do it 10 times out of 10 again. With respect, it's the same kind of setup. So, but Billy and I got sideways because of the way I thought she handled Chuck Beatty, the naming of the municipal center, or the Chuck Beatty Center, or whatever it's called. We went sideways there, and we stayed sideways. I wanted us to kind of reconcile earlier this year, and it's largely my fault because of this time and things going on. We didn't do that, and along comes this story of this event with Michael Scott, and I the only issue I have with Billy in this whole thing is that she said Michael Scott more than once. Michael Scott resigned, and Michael Scott did not resign. And what's frustrating to me is that she continues to allow that to hang out there. That's either malicious lying or laziness, or uh, she doesn't see any problem with it. All three of those are unacceptable to me. So what I do if I could help Billy and Doug Wallace with anything, I certainly would in a split second. I don't dislike Billy. I don't hate Billy. I don't have a personal vendetta against Billy. I supported her when she ran against Paul Christensen, and believe for the most part that she's managed city council, the meetings, and all that very well. So my issues are largely because of two major events: the Chuck Beatty issue and now Michael Scott. When I get to Travis Smith, I just told you I hired in 2016 from Glen Rose newspaper to be the editor following Neil White, who was a longtime editor of the Daily Light. I hired Travis. Travis is he's a young bull, if you will, bull in a china closet. It's not a love hate for me. It's a like dislike, and not ever the person, but the behaviors. I've told Travis that once, I've told him 10 times, or 10 times I've told him once, that the only thing that will sabotage his career is himself. And all you got to do is watch counsel. Travis is unnecessarily abrasive, disrespectful, belligerent, rude, nasty, and he doesn't have to be that. You don't have to be that way, Travis. You do not have to be that way. If you don't like what a developer has to say, express it. But you don't ever have to express it in the way that you do. We've seen letters and received calls ourselves from people who have said, "What's going on with your city council? Why? I don't want to come stand before people who treat us like that." And while the other four may not do that with these people, the fact that one does represents all of them. They don't single Travis out. They just say Waxahachie City Council.
Right,
So
because
all I'm saying,
a bad apple
yeah,
spoils the whole barrel. And I'll tell you one thing, but it's nice to be important.
yeah.
It's more important to be nice.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say in my column yesterday, Plato said, those only those who essentially don't seek power deserve power. Those who seek power don't deserve power. And so I say to a guy like Travis, man, you got the world in front of you. Just treat people well. You got a smart mind. You understand things. You have the drive and the mentality. But whether it's personally or professionally, just treat people right. And the other thing I say is the idea that your family members get online and call me all sorts of names, and that I don't. It's that old thing about what Susie says about Sally says more about Susie than it does about Sally, is the truth. So Mr. Smith in this case getting on telling me that I remind him of the guy who can't trying to put a baby bed together without the directions. That's pretty funny, and in some ways, that's how I would try to put a baby bed together. but it's not a good look for any council member to have family members do their. We don't see Melania going around talking. Speaking of Trump, we don't see J.D. Vance's wife going around. I've never heard Governor Abbott's wife or family member ever speak for him. My wife, she gets as ticked off as anybody about what she sees, and she's friends with some of the people that say it, but she doesn't get online. And I've never asked her not to, but she just knows not to do it. She's done it one time, and that's when we opened the Daily Light, and she was right about it. But w- stop that nonsense. That not because I don't need it, because somebody else is going to fill that void. If it's not your dad, somebody else will pick up the
Right.
slack. But it's a bad look, and so I think Travis Travis's issue. Your issue for me isn't your ability, your talent, your drive, and all those things. It's about how you treat people. And if you can just get that part right, the world is in your palm. And then last, as it relates to Trace Atkins ran against David Hill when Trace ran 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, not even a year and a half ago. I endorsed David Hill. David Hill and I became close over the years. Uh, Trace beat David, and so, but in my endorsement of David Hill, and I took some heat for this, but at the end of the third remaining portion of the endorsement said that if Trace happens to win, that I find him in my private and public interviews to be a sharp guy, to be a likable guy, to I think really contribute, and uh and has the potential to do a great job. So I was all for Trace getting in there and doing his thing. But in my interviews with Trace, I specifically asked because it was well known that Trace and Michael Scott had a falling out about something, a sidewalk, as I recall, prior to Trace running, and that part of the reason why Trace was running was because of that. And so I asked Trace personally and in private and in an interview in this very room, do you intend to get rid of Michael Scott? And Trace looked at me, his wife was there in the private. He was on air in the public, said, no, I'm going to give him a fair shot. Trace has been in office now a year and a few months. All right. The first year or half of a year being a council member is you learning what a council member is.
Right.
Uh, and so to say, if the reason why that you flip-flopped on your support or willingness to work with Michael Scott is because of this stuff that you've experienced with him in the first year, most of which you should have been learning about what it means to be a city council member, then yeah, we have an issue. And so I think Trace misled me. And so that's my opinion. If he didn't, he didn't, but that's what I think he did. And so I've got an issue with that. The other thing I'll say about Trace is his family members are doing the same thing. I just don't I get why a spouse or a sister or brother or whomever will come out and support the person their husband in this case, or brother or cousin or friend or whatever. I get that. I mean, that's my inclination. If somebody attacked you or Sammy, I'd be out to
Right.
defend you.
Right.
But I also got to realize that you may not want me to, and then it may be a real bad look for you that I'm coming to your rescue. Trace Atkins is a guy who he said on the dais in the last, not last past Monday, but the Monday before last, and at the end of it looked like he was a angry, brooding man who was talking big man on campus kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, if that's the approach you want to take, one, I don't think that's a good approach. Number two, why are your family members speaking for you? Why are they calling everything I say a lie? There's a point at which you say everything that a person's lying about. If that's just your response, he's spewing out lies, he's spewing out lies, he's spewing out lies. I mean, the easiest thing in the world is to call somebody a liar.
Right.
I don't know where they think I'm wrong. And so I think this power, control, fame, status has gotten to a couple of these council members, and they need to rein it in and just serve the community. Quit playing these games, just serve the community. And if you can't serve the community, by being in touch and by doing a job that really does call for full-time work, then find something else to do. But as long as this paper exists, we are going to be a watchdog. That's the end of the story. All right. So those are the things I had to say. I think our council can do a lot better in the months and years to come. So we'll see. But the precedent's set now for the next manager, and we'll have to see how that goes. All right. Thanks for indulging me.
You're welcome.
All right, Rhyme time. What you got?
And I didn't know we were gonna have this particular
Yeah, I
part.
laid it on you.
That's okay. It makes me even happier with my choice of poem today. And y'all have noticed here, and I've prefaced many poems about saying, well, they came in the 2020 era, and there was so much social stuff going on, and boy, I've been talking about some heavy stuff in those poems, and this is from 2022, and it is from when I got out of that era and thought, I've learned something about writing poems, but I can write a poem about whatever I want, whenever I want. If I can write poems about these social justice issues, I can do it about everything. And so I just I started writing about whatever gave me pleasure. And
Yeah,
I wrote this poem called Skipping.
let's hear it.
It goes like this. You can only skip if you're happy. Those fun little steps are really quite snappy. They're a jig of pure joy where the legs become a toy. It's almost a dance. The feet begin to prance. The skip always comes with a smile, a grin that will stretch for a mile. No skipping when you're down. No skipping with a frown. A skip has no thought. Skips cannot be bought. They come from somewhere inside. Your body is showing its pride. You show nary a care. You can skip anywhere. It comes with no plan. You skip because you can. It's not reserved for the young. Skipping is for everyone. Simply follow your heart. Your legs will do their part. So here's my tip. Give it a skip. When you get a little urge, let your feet then surge. Lou, give to my Lou, allow yourself to.
Yeah, very good. Yep. I remember you reading that to me after you first wrote it, and I loved it. Love it again. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jason says I respectfully disagree with you about Tracy's an asset to our community. Look, I want to be clear. I am not saying that none of council members are an asset, or that I'm not saying that uh, there's a single one that doesn't have something to contribute to our community. What I am saying is that I think they are imbalanced with respect to the way they've handled this Michael Scott issue, and that we got to get back to them exercising, contributing their talents and their skills and their drive and their energies to make sure that they are an asset to this community. Trace, I do think the one thing I think that I didn't mention is I think Trace and Travis, connecting up and becoming closer, if that's what's going on, could be a drug that neither one of them really will recognize it's causing them problems. I think they need to be seen as being independent. Right now, I think there's this element that sees them as very similar, and I don't think that's healthy. But I one, I appreciate you telling me that, Jason. Number two, I am not saying that these people don't have uh, the ability to contribute and that they are an asset to our community. They are to be respected. They are to be appreciated for doing what's not. I wouldn't run for council if for all the tea in China. Yet these people do it, and they don't get all they get sometimes is just what we're talking about now, and that is grief. It isn't so much who they are; it's the way in which they're managing this, and in some cases, they're not. Some of them aren't qualified to manage like they're an owner of the city. Um, but anyway, I agree with you about Trace, and thank you for saying I'm spot on about Travis. So appreciate your feedback, Jason.
Very
All
good.
right, this
Today in
day in
history,
history.
we
Yep,
may run a
we're gonna
couple
go a
minutes
little
late.
longer
That's
today,
all
but
right.
just indulge us. All right.
We had 8 entries. I went 7 and 3, got a couple bonuses, which helped. Tough one coming out the gate with Mormon leader Brigham Young and his followers arrived in the Salt Lake Valley in present-day Utah. When did Brigham show up there?
That would be 1890.
1896.
I was with you guys too, but it was 1847.
Just before the Civil War. So
That's
Sammy didn't know that Brigham Young is the name
university.
of a man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's BYU, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Put it together. Excuse me, the SS Eastland, a passenger ship carrying more than 2,500 people, rolled onto its side while docking at the Clark Street Bridge on the Chicago River. An estimated 844 people died in the disaster.
1976. I mean, no, 1876.
Oh, I don't know. I was gonna say 1913.
1915. Can you imagine?
1915.
Wow.
You
uh,
almost got it.
boat big enough to hold 2,500 people
And it
being on
tipped
the
over.
Chicago River and tipping over. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
During a visit to Moscow, Vice President Richard Nixon engaged in his famous
Richard Nixon,
his famous
the
yeah.
peace thing.
Rita put this out
I
as
am no criminal.
as a bonus, and I did not pick it up. In the famous kitchen debate with Soviet leader
Yeah, Brezhnev.
Nikita Khrushchev.
Khrushchev. Yeah.
Khrushchev.
Yeah.
I don't know when Nixon was president.
He was president.
This is when he was vice president.
Yeah.
He was
So
vice president to Dwight D. Eisenhower.
When was he president?
This has nothing to do with it, but he was president in 68 through 74.
So I'm gonna go 54. 1954.
I like your logic. I like his thinking approach there.
60.
59.
Yes.
Way to think that through,
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah. Good
You're
job,
you're
Sammy.
growing in this
Yeah.
game, right? You leaps and bounds. The Apollo 11 astronauts, two of them who'd been the first humans to set foot on the moon, splashed down safely in the Pacific.
1966.
67.
69.
Ah. I was overthought it.
You overthought it.
Yeah.
And so I said to Rita, well, two guys, weren't the three on the deal? And she
Yeah.
said, yeah, we looked it up. So the last guy was still up there circling the moon,
By
watching,
himself.
yeah,
Poor fella.
to see that they safely landed down there, and then it later docked with a Russian
Yeah.
and came down.
Interesting.
Cooperation between the two great superpowers.
Yeah.
The U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruled that President Richard Nixon had to turn over subpoenaed White House tape recordings to the Watergate special prosecutor.
73.
74.
74.
Oh my
I
Booyah.
picked 74 also. Here we go again. An Apollo spacecraft splashed down in the Pacific, completing a mission which included the first docking with a Soyuz capsule from the Soviet Union.
1981.
Sure guess. 85.
75.
Did I get it? I think
No.
I did. I said 81.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Only got
All
one
right.
wrong.
So I guess he was up there for 6 years waiting on that. No, we
Oh,
got two more. A stampede inside a tunnel crowded with techno music fans left 21 people dead and more than 500 injured at the famed Love Parade Festival in Western Germany.
1991.
That's what I guessed.
96.
2010. It was
Oh.
a different.
Wow.
There was one of those deals in 21.
Wow.
A high-speed train crash outside Santiago de Compostela in northwest Spain killed 79 people.
Is our last one?
Last one.
2022.
2020.
2013.
Oh, I barely got it.
Dang.
All right,
That was a good
very good. So to wrap up, I wanted to tell you we have things that are true, but that you sound like BS is what the name of the book is, except it says the actual BS. We don't. But the thing that's true today that doesn't sound true is that you can swim in the arteries of a blue whale. Its heart is the size of a car,
Holy moly.
and you can swim.
A
It's
blue-
big enough to swim inside its veins.
A blue whale?
So
Yeah,
it's true, but it sounds like it could not be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's blue whale.
Or is it
I
shark?
didn't bring my book. I forgot it.
Whale shark?
Sammy, it ain't no shark. It's a whale
Whale shark.
with a heart the size of a car.
It's the biggest.
Yeah,
Thing
just
in
be
the ocean.
quiet. Go back to whatever you were doing.
Where's your book?
I forgot it. But anyway, thank you for being here. We will not have a show next week. Jeff is in another part of the country, and I am neck deep in two projects that are taking up a long time as Jeff's out of town. So we are just going to skip next week, and we don't need to reinvigorate or recalibrate or calibrate at all. We just look forward to a break, and
But
we'll
our
be back.
Substacks will still appear on
Our
Monday and
Substack
Friday.
Monday and Wednesday. Yeah, we're on Substack.com under Grit and Good News. $5 a month, you get a ton of content. from us, and you get a email on Monday and Friday mornings that give you all of that. So feel free to join Substack.com, search Grit and Good News. We thank you for being here, and Jeffrey.
Make it a great day, and remember, put a smile on somebody's face.